Tucson, thank you. My only problem today is that I don't know what I can say after what Greg and Alexandria have already said. But when people think about the future of this country and whether we have the kind of political leadership we need among the young people of America, you're looking at these guys right now. And I just want to say a word or two about these fantastic and courageous members of Congress. When Alexandria was a kid, she cleaned houses with her mom in order to earn money to pay the family bills. And after she graduated college, she worked as a barista, struggling every day to pay the rent. But she looked around her and she said, there is something fundamentally wrong in a world where so few have so much and so many have so little. So she did something rather extraordinary. Never held political office, tending bar. She said, you know what, I'm going to run for Congress. And then people said, you're out of your mind because you're running against one of the most powerful guys in the U.S. House. How can you do that? But you know what she did? What she did, she went out to her friends who held similar concerns, said, get involved with me. They started with no money, and then they raised a few $1,000s, and they knocked on doors. And they talked common sense to the working people of her district. And on election night, she won. Now, my point is not just to praise this wonderful young lady. My point is to tell you that there are Alexandras and Alexanders in this crowd right here. And there are Gregs and Alexandrias all over America. There are young people who love America, who want to see better for our country, who are smart, who are disciplined, who are prepared to roll up their sleeves and take on a billionaire class which is destroying working families all over this country. And this guy here, known for a few years, came to Congress, and because of his leadership skills, he became chairman of the Progressive Caucus in a 2-year period. And not only in Austin, but all over the country, he is doing a great job. So I just want to thank Alexandria and Greg, not only for being here today, but for inspiring millions and millions of young people all across this country. And I want to just say a brief word about our friend Raul Grijalva. I was here in Tucson a number of years ago when I was running for president. And at that point, you know, we didn't have 20,000 people coming out of meetings, and I wasn't very well known. And what Raul did, he said, I like what Bernie was saying. I was just talking to Alita a few moments ago. And he said, Bernie is speaking what has to be said. And he had the guts to come out and endorse me and take on the whole Democratic establishment. So we will never forget Raul Grijalva and his dedication to the working families of our country. Look, my message today is simple. And what this crowd tells me, and by the way, we had 36,000 people coming out in Denver. We had 15,000 in Tempe, and now we got some 20,000 here. And what it tells me is that the American people will not allow Donald Trump to create an oligarchy in America. They will not allow Donald Trump to create an authoritarian society. They will not allow the billionaire class to cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, veterans programs, Title I funding, which will impact that school profoundly. We're not going to let them decimate the programs that the working class of this country needs in order to give more tax breaks to billionaires. Now, right now in America, you have what we call an oligarchy. And what an oligarchy is about is a handful of billionaires controlling our government. Now, some of you may have seen Donald Trump's inauguration. See it? Well, I had the unfortunate position of being in the front row. Not a good position to be in. And what I saw... Okay. And what I saw in front of me, right behind Donald Trump, were the three wealthiest people in America. Mr. Musk, Mr. Bezos, and Mr. Zuckerberg. But that's not all. Right behind them, there were 13 other multi-billionaires who Trump had nominated to head major government agencies. Now, some of you may remember what Abraham Lincoln said at Gettysburg. Remember what he said? Here you had a situation where thousands of soldiers died trying to end slavery. And a few days later, he looks out on the battlefield where people had died and been wounded. And he said, you know what? We have a vision of a country where we're going to have a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Well, Donald Trump has a different vision. He wants a government of the billionaire class, by the billionaire class, and for the billionaire class. So let me tell you something now that you don't see much on corporate television and you don't hear discussed on the halls of Congress. In fact, I'm going to do something very radical. You ready? I'm going to tell you the truth. And the truth is that right now in America, the people on top have never, ever in the history of our country had it so good. A huge explosion of billionaires. These guys literally don't know what to do with their money. They buy one mansion, two mansions, not enough. They got 5 mansions. They want to get around. They own their own jet planes. They own their own helicopters, send their kids to the best private schools, the best colleges, go on vacation. They don't go to Motel 6. They own their own islands. And just for kicks, the very rich decide to take a trip to outer space on their own spaceships. Today in America, we got more income and wealth inequality than we've ever had in the history of America. Today you got three people on top, Musk, Bezos, Zuckerberg, owning more wealth than the bottom half of America, 170 million Americans. Does that make sense to anybody? You got the top 1% owning more wealth than the bottom 90%. While workers are struggling, CEOs now make 300 times more than their average worker. So that is one world, one America. People on top, more money than they could spend in 1,000 lifetimes. But then there's another America, and that's the America that you know. That's the America where in the richest country on earth, 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. You all know what living paycheck to paycheck is about? I grew up in a family that lived paycheck to paycheck in a rent-controlled apartment, and I know what lack of money did to my family and the stresses that it caused. Right now in America, you have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people working for starvation wages. In America today, if you can believe it, 60,000 people die each year because they don't get to a doctor when they should. So we got massive income and wealth inequality. We have more concentration of ownership in the economy, handful of giant corporations owning sector after sector, 3 Wall Street firms combined being the major stockholders in 95% of American corporations. But meanwhile, we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. Over 20% of our seniors are trying to get by on $15,000 a year or less. We got kids in this school and schools all over America who come to school hungry because their parents can't afford to buy the food they need. So brothers and sisters, this is where we are right now. People on top, enormous wealth, enormous power. And what their power is about, not just that they control the economy, they control the political system as well. Now, I don't care if you're a conservative Republican or a progressive. Does anybody think it makes sense that we have a campaign finance system where one man, Musk, can put $270 million to get Trump elected, and then his reward is that he becomes the most powerful person in government? That is not democracy, that is oligarchy. But it's not just Republicans. You got billionaire Democrats who are telling candidates, don't stand up for the working class. So we've got a corrupt campaign finance system. We got to get rid of this terrible Citizens United Supreme Court decision. Everybody in America, every eligible voter, has the right to one vote. Billionaires do not have the right to buy elections. But what Greg and Alexandria were talking about, it's not just standing up to Trump's attacks on Congress, his attacks on the media, his attacks on the courts. You know, some of you studied American history remember that the founding fathers of this country were no dummies. They had taken on the King of England, the most powerful guy in the world, and they said, you know what? We don't want to create a nation in which one person like the King of England has unlimited power. So they created a constitution with separations of powers. You got an executive branch, the president, a legislative branch, the Congress, judicial branch, our courts. And that is the model that people all over the world have looked at. We don't want a king in the United States. We overthrew a king. We want a vibrant democracy, not all power resting in the hands of one person. It is outrageous that this guy sues media, sues ABC, CBS, Meta, threatening to investigate NPR, PBS. You know why? Because they dared to be critical of him. Oh, his feelings were just crushed. He wants everybody to bow down. Oh, you're great, you're terrific. Hey, Mr. President, if you can't take criticism, get out of politics. And for the first time, you know, there have been Supreme Court decisions that I have profoundly, as many of you have, disagreed with. Citizens United, terrible decision. Undermining Roe v. Wade, terrible decision. But you know, we believe in the rule of law. And right now, what Trump is doing is a judge stands up and says, hey, you can't do that. That's unconstitutional. And now they are threatening to impeach that judge. You know, I was, a few years ago, chairman of the U.S. Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs. And in that position, I got to meet veterans not only in Vermont, but all over this country. And I have a profound... We got any veterans in the audience today? These are the men and women who put their lives on the line to defend us and defend American democracy. And we're not going to let Trump undermine 250 years of this country being an example to the world of what democracy is supposed to be. But what Trump is doing is not only horrific domestic policies. You don't take food away from hungry children to give tax breaks to billionaires. There is no world, there is no universe, there is no religion where that is not grossly immoral. But it is not just domestic affairs. For the first time in the history of our country, we got a president allying himself with a ruthless dictator in Russia. Mr. President, it was not Ukraine that started that war. It was Russia that started the war. We don't want a murdering dictator as an ally. We believe in democracy. And we don't believe that we should continue funding the murderous Netanyahu government that has destroyed the people of Gaza. 45,000 people are dead there. 100,000+ are wounded, mostly women and children. Netanyahu government should not get another nickel of military weaponry from the United States. And if you can believe, as bad as all of that is, what they now want to do is force the 2 million people out of Gaza and build some playground for the billionaire class. Unbelievable. Our brothers and sisters, and Alexandria made this point, Greg made this point. We're going to fight Trump at every step of the way. And the crowds that I have seen tell me the American people are prepared to stand up and fight. But it's not only opposing Trump. What is very important, absolutely important, is for us never to forget We are today the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. There is no excuse for 800,000 people to be sleeping out on the streets. There is no excuse for 20 million people, including people right here, paying 40 or 50% of their limited incomes for housing. This is America. We can build 4 million units of low-income and affordable housing. We can lower rents. This is America. We should not be the only major nation on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right. The function of a healthcare system is not to make billions in profits for the drug companies and the insurance companies. It is to provide quality care to all. We can do it. We do not have to pay 10 times more for prescription drugs than do the people in other countries. We can take on the greed of the pharmaceutical industry, cut prescription drug prices in half. Brothers and sisters, we live in a competitive global economy. We need to have the best educated workforce in the world. We need to make sure that all of our kids, regardless of income, get a quality public education. We got any teachers here? Thank you, teachers. And when we talk about quality public education, no teacher in America should start off at less than $60,000 a year. These kids here in Tucson, kids in Burlington, Vermont, in LA, California, they deserve the best education in the world. We can provide it to them. And we can and should make sure that when kids want a higher education, whether it's college, whether it's trade school, we need desperately doctors and nurses, mental health counselors, dentists. We need sheet metal workers, carpenters, bricklayers. We need construction workers. We need a system that trains people to go out and do the work that needs to be done without going bankrupt. We should be making all of our public colleges, universities, community colleges tuition free. And when somebody says, well, Bernie, it's a good idea, how are you going to pay for it? I'll tell you how. We're not going to give tax breaks to billionaires. We're going to ask them to start paying their fair share of taxes. And now in, Washington, Alexandria, Greg and I, we hear from our colleagues a whole lot about freedom. Well, if we're going to talk about freedom, let us understand that the women of this country must have the freedom to control their own bodies, not the government. So, brothers and sisters, we're going to fight Trump every step of the way. And what you're saying here in Tucson, and I want you to know, what you're doing here in Tucson impacts not only Arizona. The whole world is watching. And what people all across this country are saying, do we have the guts to stand up to Trumpism and oligarchy and authoritarianism? We say yes. So the task is not easy. Believe me, I know that. Let's be clear. The oligarchs have unlimited amounts of money. You know, what for you is a cup of coffee, for them, $5 million, $10 million doesn't mean a damn thing. They got unlimited amounts of money. They control the media. They own the media. They have tremendous power over the political process. But this is what I believe. in every way, not just running for office. That's important. We need great candidates here to stand up for the working class and all across this country. It means that we have got to build the trade union movement. Do we have union members here? Thank you. We're going to make it easier, not harder, for workers to join unions. It means joining all kinds of organizations, making sure your schools are top-notch, your health care is top-notch. So we need you to go outside of the comfort zone you had yesterday. Yesterday you stood and you watched. We don't need you watching anymore. We need you involved in the process in every step of the way. So brothers and sisters, I don't have a PhD in mathematics. In fact, I did pretty poorly in school in math. But this I do know, that at the end of the day, 99% is a hell of a bigger number than 1%. They have the wealth. They got all the money in the world. They got the power. They got the media. But you know what we have that they don't have? We got 20,000 people here in Tucson. And we got hundreds of millions of people all across this country. So brothers and sisters, don't let them divide us up by the color of our skin or where we were born or our religion or our sexual orientation. Let's stand together as one people, proud people. Let's take on Trumpism and defeat it. And let's create the kind of America that you and I know we can become. Thank you all very much.